You are listening to Talking Star Wars.
Hello, Star Wars fans,
I'm Connor,
and I'm Alex.
and we are talking Star Wars.
So, welcome to episode 57, Talking Star Wars. I continue the third in our installment of our What If little mini-series here. Episode 55, for frequent listeners, was about some what if scenarios that we had proposed for the original trilogy, and episode 56 from last week was about the prequel trilogy.
And we're giving some very slight suggestions to changes that happen in each Star Wars movie installment, because there's a potential for a new animated show on Disney Plus coming out. They made a Marvel What If series, which follows the same format, where what if these small changes were made with character decisions or just even setup. And Alex and I came up with our own ideas for how to add these alterations to the Star Wars films. We don't know the ideas that each person is choosing, and we have gone through and just taken a look already at the original and the prequel series, as Alex has said. And today we're going to take a look at the sequels.
We are now going to talk about The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker.
And if I'm correct, who went first last time for episodes 3, Revenge of the Sith? I think I might have gone last.
Yeah, so Connor, we're going to let you go first.
All right. So my idea for episode 7, The Force Awakens. I almost said The Force Unleashed. That would be a very different idea for a film. But my thought was, we're on our final duel, lightsaber duel, on Starkiller Base. My thought was, what if Finn discovers, through some means that he is Force sensitive and he manages to defeat Kylo Ren before Rey gets the opportunity to? My branching...
Well, Connor, I need to interrupt you because this is our agreement. We had the same idea.
Excellent.
Very similar ideas.
First time in 7 films.
Ding, ding. Okay. All right, so because my idea, reading it right here, is what if Finn discovered he was Force sensitive as well? So mine is a little less specific, but I think we can discuss that both as a concept and then how it would impact the final duel.
Mm-hmm.
So let's. Yours is more specific, so let's talk about that, and then we can go into mine as a broader. Finn is Force sensitive the whole film.
Sure.
But so in both of our ideas, Finn discovers that he, like Rey, is Force sensitive, which is Connor and I's reading of the movies already, and was just something that they did not flesh out and should be fleshed out in our sequel series.
Here's hoping. So my initial design would be the main change that occurs would be that Finn seeks out Luke Skywalker, and Rey remains with the Resistance as a Resistance fighter. So there's a fundamental change here with the training that occurs in The Last Jedi, but I'm also curious what Rey's trajectory would be. Is she still Force sensitive? And if so, how does that affect what happens in The Last Jedi? Does she go to Canto Bight? Who knows? What are your thoughts on this?
So, to clarify, your idea, Connor, is not that both Rey and Finn are Force sensitive, but that only Finn is Force sensitive and becomes our Jedi character instead of Rey.
I should say that Rey would definitely be Force sensitive, but doesn't recognize it before Finn. Finn would recognize it first. So it's a matter of switched roles. Her awakening might not happen until, Rise of Skywalker. It might not occur until after that film. It's nebulous at that point.
All right. So these are slightly distinct. So let's talk about yours first here. So I like that we both focused on Finn being a Jedi because that is too cool an idea to not have.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Finn is less able to break Luke out of his funk because, well, he would have to take a different tack because Finn is an ex-stormtrooper and has already been through sort of this hierarchy forcing ideas he does not love down his throat. He would be less accepting and forgiving of Luke being a jackass.
Mm-hmm.
He might just threaten to leave much earlier. And at the same time, he has a lot more real-world examples of awful things happening to try to jar Luke into action. Rey focuses a lot on personal responsibility, her mental idea of what the Jedi are. Finn is a very practical man. He would be, hey man, people are dying. I need help. I don't know what this glowing blue light stick I have in my hand is. I can lift things with my mind, which is crazy. You got to help me out here. So I can see Finn doing that. I'm wondering if Poe goes with Finn. I don't think so, because I don't think Poe can get away. But I wonder if he messages Poe to ask his advice, because I think the relationship between Poe and Finn is very important. And because Finn being gone without being there to be the linchpin between Rey and Poe and Leia is difficult. Because Finn is actually the emotional center for all of those characters. Rey is our protagonist, and Poe is one of our protagonists. But they all trust Finn, and none of them trust each other.
Right.
So,
I would say that back on, with the Resistance, we would still have ties between Rey and Leia. We might have this parallel story going on where Leia recognizes the potential in Rey, maybe chooses Rey directly to go on some spy mission in order to prevent the First Order from capturing the fleet, which is all in one ship at this point.
This is a straight swap. By the time, so we have Finn negotiating with grumpy Luke, his shattered mentor up on the mountain. And of course, if you would like to know more about our take on Luke as a mentor, go ahead and give us a listen to episode 11, our character spot on Luke as the traumatized teacher. Anyway, so if Finn is there, however it's happening, and then if I can see Finn and Kylo then having this weird Force connection as well, where it's probably much less sexual tension. In this version, we have sexual tension between Finn and Poe, rather than between Finn and Kylo. I don't think Kylo is Finn's type, and vice versa. But I think it then becomes a much more...
I think it's a very antagonistic, threatening relationship.
But also, I think you could play up the angle of Finn was in the First Order and then left, and Kylo fights against this urge that he's doing the wrong thing. So I think you take that tack on their relationship, where the traitor angle, where Kylo views Finn as this terrible traitor, even though we barely see them interact in the 3 movies after Episode VII. So I think you would play up that angle where Finn could almost be like the, hey man, you don't have to do this, and
everybody can change.
Yeah, it's like I left.
Potential to. I had this programming since I was a child. Kylo has had this programming since he was a child, where as Ben Solo, he was
visited in his dreams and had his secret friend Snoke, who's like, "Oh no, I'm not grooming you to be a Sith, please." And if you've read the comic The Rise of Kylo Ren, there is a big, strange old man grooms adolescent in an unhealthy way parallel between his relationship with Snoke. It's like, don't tell your father figure, your uncle, about our secret talks. It's kind of gross in a very deliberate way. So if Finn is this Force-sensitive person as well, first I wonder how he got past the First Order screening, because we know that you're able to screen for metachlorian count and whatever using First Order technology. But let's just say space magic and move on.
I like the thought of having an awakening where Rey, and then with Mandalorian woman Sabine in Ahsoka, she has this awakening where there is no prior inclination of them being Force sensitive, but they have this awakening. This will go again to question. We have Rey at this point, who we know she is Force sensitive because she has some bond with a lightsaber. I think that still is retained, but I think that she has a much stronger interaction on Canto Bight with the Force sensitive children. I think that she sees a particular bond with them, and it's not like Finn, who needs to have this is what war is all about, discussion with these space deer. Rey would implicitly understand the notion of, this is bad, war is bad, profiteering from war is bad, subjecting these children to slave labor is bad, because she was in the same shoes. And for some reason, Finn doesn't see the parallel there, even though he was conscripted as a child, or even prior to that, bred into war.
Personally, I don't think Rey ever goes to Canto Bight in her scenario, because she is the person that has chosen to crack the encryption, rather than, because she is skilled enough to do so.
They wouldn't need a key master,
A slicer.
yeah.
I would say you give that role narratively to Rey, because she is this scrapper able to repurpose technology. We've already established her technical bona fides by her modifications to the Falcon in the first movie. So slicing is not really the same skill set. We know that's actually like a hacker, but I think, does she pick it up? Instead, or she goes to Canto Bight. I always found the diversion to Canto Bight in this very time-sensitive environment, while ships are chasing each other through space, to be relatively silly. I would think that instead they're being hunted and maybe have already gotten to Crate, and perhaps then need like the codes to slip by the fleet and escape. Whatever. So maybe she still needs to go to Canto Bight. In that case, I don't think Rey is taken in by the codebreaker, so I think she expects his betrayal. We then do lose
directly through it.
Yeah, we lose Finn's confrontation with Phasma. So I think there's lots of a direct swap of them. I think has far-reaching implications for the story, and honestly, I don't think it's successful. I don't think Finn is able to get through to Luke in the same way. I don't think that Rey has the same charisma that Finn has to bring people together. Finn is the most charismatic member of our three trio. Rey is, of course, very personally likable, but is also very strong-willed, and that puts Poe off.
Right. I will ask, I guess this is my final question in this. Does Luke see any darkness in Finn, like he sees in Rey?
Finn, while testing very highly as a stormtrooper, was sent on very few combat missions because he was viewed as soft. So he was like very technically minded, but on all the simulations he had trouble doing brutal, hard things that stormtroopers are able to do, which is why he got busted down to sanitation. He was still very skilled, which is why he was even on Starkiller Base, but he kept not, murdering civilians and doing all the things that a stormtrooper needs to do, even in simulations. So we know that Finn was struggling with his programming already before The Force Awakens. So I think inherently, if you're Force sensitive, you struggle with that. I think the hole in Finn's armor that Luke would identify is, Finn is almost like he's a former child soldier, so he's got this deep sense of having been wronged. We don't even see Finn struggling with his hatred towards the First Order. He more wants to escape them, and then he sort of almost pities his former comrades. So I think he has to sort of come to terms with his upbringing, but Finn is also, I think, has a more malleable worldview than Rey does. So I think Luke tells him, okay, here's some truth. I think Finn is receptive to that. I mean, Finn is always willing to believe people he trusts. So if Luke gets some trust of him, I think Finn accepts it more readily than Rey, who has to be coaxed along and disbelieves Luke and is sort of personally wronged. Whereas when Finn learns that Luke might have been considering killing Kylo Ren when he was young, Finn is like, yeah, that guy grew up to be awful. I don't blame you.
So there's that, Rey is someone who is has the polarity of extreme hope and painful despair, because she was abandoned. She was left alone. She is a Palpatine, so she inherently has some genetic predisposition towards rage and lightning, where Poe feels a little bit more balanced. He has that charisma. He doesn't seem to have those darker streaks. We don't see him express a lot of anger, except for in the very beginning of The Force Awakens when he saves Poe and he blasts some stormtroopers with the TIE fighter, which is somewhat contradictory towards his view on violence prior, but I think that's an isolated incident. But it's a very questionable future that we have, because we don't know what Rey is going to do, whether she remains with the Resistance or has her own Canto Bight adventure. I still see her bonding with Leia. and the relationship between Finn and Luke is going to be so unpredictable. I don't know if Finn is able to instill Luke with the hope to intervene and save the Resistance, because Finn is more of a reflecting pool to those who are around him rather than Rey. It's a nebulous future, but in your Episode 7 case, you see Finn and Rey together.
Correct. So my take is very similar to yours. In fact, I think for me, Episode 7 proceeds entirely as it does. But then during the duel with Kylo, and perhaps there's hints throughout the movie, Finn is also Force sensitive. So rather than this first duel then second duel motif where Finn frantically tries to fight off Kylo Ren, is mortally wounded, barely survives, and then Rey defeats him by awakening her Force sensitivity, Rey and Finn come to their Force sensitivity at the same time, and they have this two-way, well-choreographed duel where Kylo's obviously more powerful than each of them because he's been trained by Snoke and by Luke. And even wounded, he's dangerous. But we have, Finn taking some shots with the blaster and Kylo having to do that while Rey darts in from the side with the lightsaber. He deflects, force pushes her. Finn force pulls the lightsaber to attack from another angle. Rey pulls out her blaster. So we get this nice choreographed three-way battle is how I see it. And then rather than Finn almost dying, he might take a more superficial wound, but they are able to drive off Kylo and are still then separated by the chasm, where the big emotional moment is now. These are the two Jedi who are now bonded together, best friends, and have now fought off Kylo, still giving him the same garish wound he has across his face to indicate that, and perhaps then a blaster wound from Finn somewhere else, like on his shoulder, that we then see in his gratuitous shirtless scene later in The Last Jedi. So that is my envisioning, and then let's talk about the implications. It turns out they both have the ability to be Jedi. Finn is not on death's door when the base is being evacuated on Dakar.
I have no idea what the planet is that the Resistance are on. It's Yavin 5. That's what I prefer to think of it as.
So when they're evacuating Dakar, so we have Finn, who is not mortally wounded, is then able to be a dampening force on Poe. So Poe does not want to stage an unnecessary mutiny against Holdo.
Yeah, it's really Finn who, tries to convince Poe of this plan and has to re-explain the plan to Poe. So Poe would be salty, maybe not as salty as Crate, but he would still be a little bit upset about Holdo, but he would still be a good soldier and fall in line. Not really sure, again, I personally enjoy the Canto Bight, parts of the Canto Bight excursion, but it doesn't have any consequence. So I think the Resistance side of this goes on without any change.
Well, because I think Finn goes with Rey to seek out Luke Skywalker. So then they both train together. They both want to be his students. So we have this, instead of this intense master and apprentice, we have this best friends wanting to learn from the master. And so then they each try their different tactics to persuade Luke. And Luke, I think, sees something of his relationship with Han in how they interact with each other. You could have some quips about how are you guys, romantically attached to each other? And like, no, we're just friends.
That's what Rey says, because I think Finn would pause and think about it, and then Rey's like, no.
I will say the way that Boyega plays Finn has high bisexual energy, as I've been described by someone. So yes, he could certainly be into both Rey and Poe, though, of course.
Do you have a boyfriend? A cute boyfriend? Like, what?
Or he's like, I'm good either way.
But speaking of a romantic entanglement, we still have this connection between Rey and Kylo Ren. There's still this potential of dyad.
So I still think the dyad is too cool of a Force thing to not include in the film. And so if we are able to at all, I would want to retain the dyad in this instance. So then Finn is not part of the dyad. He would be viewed as this extraneous spare, almost a la Cedric Diggory when fighting the resurrected Palpatine. So then,
does that drive a wedge at all between Finn and Rey? Would he see this as, you're consorting with the enemy?
I think I think there definitely could be this potential, or he's trying to persuade Rey, do not give in to these visions. This is just Kylo trying to manipulate you. He insists on calling him Kylo Ren. Rey continues to call him Ben Solo.
Mm-hmm.
It's I think, a point of contention between them. I don't think it ever escalates to them having a falling out, but definitely has some tension to be resolved in a narratively satisfying way.
I could see very much that Rey would still leave to confront Kylo Ren, and Finn might stay with Luke. Because Finn doesn't have a strong allegiance to the Resistance. It takes The Last Jedi for him to gain that understanding.
But he has a allegiance to Poe, so if Poe's in danger, I think they both go. So I think they would both go to save, and then Luke would still project himself and die, but then it's both Finn and Rey who are lifting the stones at the entrance. I think you would expand, Rose's character expands to then have more of a buddy thing with just Poe. Poe, instead of having to stage his mutiny, is the one who has to go to Canto Bight, and we see Poe's rigid worldview. Then we get more of Poe's backstory. He's like, yeah, when I was with the Spice Runners of Kimiji, I saw, how they would play both sides of a conflict by smuggling weapons, and we would stash money here. And then the New Republic officials, like, I know that Vice Admiral over there. He used to, run in his squadron, but he just stole all the requisition money for himself. So you get Poe more of a sense as an actual character that we know he is, as in this ex-New Republic officer disgusted by their inaction, and then Rose remains our audience surrogate, who has little experience of the greater galaxy.
My question, though, is without Finn, does Poe get the idea to leave and find a code breaker?
I think he still reaches out to Maz Kanata. So finds her contact among Leia's things or something. Or I think we take advantage of our transgalactic communications, and he's able to ask Rey and Finn for advice before they reach Luke, and he's like, "Wait, we know Maz," so we have a three-way conference call instead. So I think Poe is the only one who's skilled enough to go on this journey. So then Holdo, rather than having mutiny, just continues on her plan. We still have Leia almost getting killed, saving herself with the Force. Akbar still dies. So most other events in the movie proceed as planned, with Poe filling in where Finn was, and then Rose remaining the buddy of the system. But I think Poe is much better able to navigate Canto Bight. Maybe he went there on a semester abroad at some point, so he knows how to navigate that much more than the naive Finn and Rose.
Well, if we have some success there, I guess my first question will be, will there be ramifications? But when you say that something that you said earlier, where both Rey and Finn would want to go back, they would want to leave Luke. Rey would want to confront Kylo Ren. Finn would want to save Poe. I think we have Finn with the Resistance, and we have Rey coming in late to assist with the Resistance, lifting the rocks. I think that we might get we might get Finn's sacrifice, running his crate schooner into the direction to distract, but we don't have Rose stopping him because there's no bond between the two.
But just in a practical sense in the film, I guess you could write it differently, but they only have one ship to get off of Luke's hideaway planet. So they both have to come in the Millennium Falcon at the end. So I think one has to persuade the other to leave, but I think Finn no longer is in this final battle. We instead focus more on Poe and Rose.
I can see that. I'm still of the opinion that Poe was very much sort of mystified and dumbfounded by this plan in The Last Jedi. I don't know if Poe would have come up with mutiny if it weren't for Finn. I think he would have.
I don't think the mutiny happens. I think they still end up on Crate.
Well, they end up on Crate, but I don't think they end up on Canto Bight at all. I think that's completely excised because Finn coming across Rose brings that about because, Finn's trying to leave. Poe wouldn't be trying to leave the Resistance. He would be still beholden to Holdo. I was trying to rhyme. But any other thoughts on the trajectory of this concept before we move on to The Last Jedi itself?
So I just think on the Rise of Skywalker, if you have the two Jedi, I think if we see both Finn and Rey having been trained as Jedi I mean, I think you still have Rey's confrontation with Snoke. So I guess that's where it is. We still send Rey in the pod to fight Kylo, where Poe then has to go and save the Resistance. So that's the point where you split them off and the story can continue.
Mhm.
So I'll agree with you there. But then I think by the time of the Rise of Skywalker, Rey remains a Palpatine.
Mhm. Yeah, that for that must remain because we can't entirely write that canon out.
So maybe we'll see if any of us remove that when we get to Episode 9. So
Yeah.
I go just say, I think with two Jedi there, like it slightly de-emphasizes Rey and Kylo's bond. I think it still happens,
Mhm.
but then we have more of a Finn is the good angel on the one shoulder, and Kylo is the evil angel on the other shoulder for Rey.
Sure.
But then I think they both still talk Kylo around. Then we get this trio facing Palpatine rather than just this dyad. We have the dyad, and then like Palpatine accounted for that. But then we have the Finn coming in to also take Palpatine's attention and allow them to fight back, and then all three of them together are able to overwhelm Palpatine.
You have Rey trying to enact this new balance where it could almost be a father, daughter, son force god motif where you have a light side user, a dark side user, and someone who's more treading the balance. I would say Rey more so treading the balance just because she has the darker impulses out of between her and Finn.
Yeah, and I still think in this Kylo dies at the end, saving Rey. Well, Poe has probably in this canon been down on Kylo and his ability to be redeemed the whole 3 films. It's an ongoing thing where I left, why can't he? He stayed, he made his choice, and then Kylo sacrifices himself to save Rey, and then that redeems Ben Solo in Finn's eyes, and so he calls him Solo like he called Han Solo Solo.
Yeah.
And they maybe share a final moment before Kylo dies, and then Finn helps Rey get out of there, and then they both go to found a new Jedi Order together.
Yeah, it works. So it's similar trajectories, but it still has enough variation. And I mean, these are arguably the films that the fans would have liked to have seen because the fans do like Finn and very much wanted to see him Force sensitive.
Give me all the Boyega, please.
Exactly. So I think it's a testament as to why we both chose Finn as being Force sensitive for our Episode 7 alteration.
That's our 2 takes on Episode 7, The Force Awakens. So now let us turn on to our next episode, Episode 8, The Last Jedi.
So I believe it is your turn to introduce first.
So, in The Last Jedi, my what if is, what if, after the confrontation in the throne room, Snoke is dead, the guards are dead, the praetors, Kylo holds out his hand to Rey. What if Rey joins Kylo, having been more affected by the darkness that she encountered while training with Luke, and knowing and believing that by working from the inside, she can join with Kylo and truly affect change and change him, and this is what she was called to do.
Are the Resistance now entirely screwed because there's no one to lift out the rocks to save them and leave Crate?
So I think this gives Rey more leverage, and Rey then becomes more leverage in the situation. So I think maybe they don't even attack the Resistance. Maybe that's Rey's condition, is like, you just leave the Resistance alone, and I'll go with you.
That's fair.
So then does this become Kylo going to confront Luke on his hideaway? Wait, I gotta look at what planet Luke was on.
Octo.
Yeah, so Kylo just goes to maybe confront Luke himself on Octo and kill him there, or does Kylo ignore Rey's request that the Resistance be gone, but then at the very end is persuaded to give mercy by either his mother or by Rey, and like that's her condition to stay as his apprentice.
We could have a group of prisoners where Finn, Poe, Rose, Leia are now First Order prisoners. They did not get the chance to escape. They're not executed, but they are far too valuable. Or Rey makes this deal. Like, I will tell you where to find Luke if you keep them alive.
That would be the one thing you would offer Kylo, is like, let the rest of them go. I know where Luke Skywalker is. And if Snoke is dead, Kylo Ren is now Supreme Leader. So I think that then happens. So I think we'll go with that.
Mhm.
So everyone else still survives, but Rey is then no longer there to learn from Leia. Instead, we get into, and then I think the next movie is even more the Kylo and Rey show.
Mhm.
They have this tension between them. Whether you read that as romantic or not is up to the viewer,
Mhm.
but this twisted relationship between them, him trying to bring her over to the dark side, her talking about the teaching she was given Luke. So they spar. Do they make out in the rain at some point? Who knows? I don't. I think if you do this dynamic, you have to play up the weird tension between
Mhm.
them.
Are they on equal ground as far as, both supreme leaders, or is Rey his apprentice? His invitation was, I don't know, more of a join me, where it seems like they would be on equal footing. But how do you run a first order with two idealistically opposed emperors?
Kylo is still becomes supreme leader. I mean, there's only one Lord of the Rings,
Hmm.
Connor, and he does not suffer to share power, or
Sure.
he does not share power. So, but he did offer Rey to join him, not become his apprentice. So I think maybe she is given rank in the First Order. Maybe her supplanting Hux's position is what made Hux then turn and start to feed information to the Resistance. Is
Hmm.
another motivation. And I can see Rey just doing her best to reform the First Order from the inside. She, which is hard because she is so vehemently against the First Order.
Hmm.
So I think this almost has to come with a tinge of dark side corruption for Rey, where she's been too affected and she then struggles with this, how to escape the deals that she has made. So in this version, when they confront Palpatine, I think that's more about, instead of Rey physical struggle with Palpatine not being possessed, this becomes more about Rey's struggle with the dark side.
Hmm. And we learned that she is a Palpatine, and maybe has more. Uh,
Of a claim to authority due
yes.
to her lineage. Did that then lead to a falling out between her and Kylo?
She tried to wrestle power, almost having this view like Anakin, where, I will take all of the power, I will become Empress, and then I can sway the First Order my way, which is a very dark side attitude to have. It's, led to Anakin's downfall.
And I think Finn is her one way back to the light then instead of Kylo. So
Hmm.
does she attempt to wrest control like Sith style or dark side style away from of the First Order, away from Kylo? Rey would be a far more effective Supreme Leader, let's be honest. Kylo is far too impulsive. Rey, while also equally impulsive, I think is just straight up more intelligent what she
Yeah.
does than Kylo.
And
So
she's a better fighter. She would definitely depose him.
yeah, so I think if she decides to take power from Kylo, she wins that fight.
Hmm.
And then is probably possessed by Palpatine,
Hmm.
has all of Palpatine's power, is slightly conflicted, and then I think we have a lot of inner battle of the mind, and then I think Rey is then defeated. Then Kylo has to go to the Resistance and say, "So,
I did a bad
I
thing.
did a bad thing. Your best
Hmm.
friend is now holds the soul of Palpatine inside. This is bad." So then we have uncomfortable buddy cop or uncomfortable buddy comedy slash team up between a deposed Kylo Ren, Finn, and Poe to go and defeat Rey and
Hmm.
try to save her from the ghost of Palpatine.
And we have her friends reconciling the goodness within Rey.
To
Maybe
the
she doesn't survive, but she at least takes the soul of Palpatine with her.
or that's about to happen, and then we just do another version of then Ben Solo takes the soul of Palpatine in him through their dyad connection. He still dies,
Hmm.
redeeming himself, and then Rey is saved, but far more shaken. It's a little bit less. She drew upon the power of the Jedi and defeated him. It's like she has had an extreme brush with darkness and been possessed by a powerful Sith Lord. We're like season 3 of The Legend of
Hmm.
Korra levels of trauma here to have to overcome after brush with the villain.
And she has to redeem herself in order to try to run a new Jedi Order. I think this would have been a much more dramatic turn. I think that, much like our hope to have Finn be force sensitive, uh, we all wanted to see what would happen if Rey decided to go with Kylo, because it's not been done before, and we would have this grand, uh, dark conclusion that still has hope, that still ends in a positive way, but it reflects The Exorcist, where you have someone willingly welcoming in the spirit in order to self-sacrifice, in the form of Father Karras and in the form of Kylo Ren, Ben Solo. I think that would have been a very dramatically effective ending.
I think it's very different. I think a lot of the story beats remain the same, except instead of Rey being this paragon of goodness, Rey is struggling with darkness. Kylo has to team up with. He is then deposed by when he realized he was just the spare for Palpatine. He's always intending to maybe seize control again and then sit on the throne himself. But after Rey sacrifices herself to permanently kill Palpatine, he then gives up his life force to save her, and dies in the process. And then we get Poe and Finn more directly involved in the story, rather than doing the B plot. They become part of the A plot.
Or the protagonists of the story.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to make
conflict.
The protagonists actually become Kylo and Finn, with Poe as the protagonist there, and then you round out Rose and Rose handling the B plot with Lando style, with attacking the fleet. All right, so that is my what if for episode 8, the Last Jedi. What is yours, Connor?
This is my only sort of a troll entry, so this will probably be a short discussion. But instead of Rose, what if Poe joined Finn in going to Canto Bight?
That's not a troll entry at all. I think I've always been a proponent that they should not have separated Finn and Poe as they did in The Last Jedi, because their chemistry and relationship was so dynamic and interesting. I mean, our 3 main characters spend the entirety of The Last Jedi mostly separated.
My only change in outcome is a burgeoning relationship between Finn and Poe. Maybe even ending in that same sort of a version of sacrifice, where instead of Rose stopping Finn from heading headlong into the First Order attack, we have a character development where Poe, who
was going to do the same thing earlier in the film and smash into the Dreadnought, instead pull Finn back, and instead of getting like a line about, it's by saving what we love, we got,
leave every last man.
Yeah, it's like, hey, throwing your life away for nothing is not what we're about. I threw away too many lives already. I'm not gonna throw away yours. Something like that.
So the only
I need to keep the dramatic kiss, though. It needs to remain, instead of being pseudo-platonic like with Rose. I need some full-on, this is what's going on, kiss between Poe and Finn here.
And it's somehow far less confusing than the kiss between Rose and Finn.
Plus, you can get some great scenes with Finn and Poe in the Canto Bight Cantina, where Finn is disgusted by what he's seeing. Poe is explaining it to him, but then Poe also realizes how cynical he is when Finn is also pointing out how maybe these own people are trapped in their own. It's sort of just the system that's bad and needs to be overhauled, where Poe is very much a personal responsibility person, an individual person, and Finn sees the systems that gave rise to such problematic. So you have this great dynamic, them having to like steal tuxedos to blend in. I actually really like this idea, because it keeps the B plot on our B protagonist, I keep the whole plot with Kylo and Rey the same.
And then instead of having our attention split between Poe and the Resistance, Rose and Finn, we just focus on 2 plots, just like Empire Strikes Back. We don't split our attention that much.
Yeah, we just assume that the fleet is going to be okay. Maybe Rose becomes, if she remains a character, is instead like Holdo's a second in command, or has worked for Holdo before, and so then we get
a little POV.
Yeah, we get like the Leia, Holdo, Rose. What's our plan to keep away from them until Poe and Finn get back from grabbing the secret plans in Canto Bight or the Codebreaker or whatever they do. They grab the MacGuffin from the casino planet to allow us to escape the pursuit of the First Order.
So in reality, very little changes, except we get a better movie with deeper character development. And this isn't to besmirch Rose at all. It's just that narratively that should have been Poe with Finn, but Disney, I think, may have been a little too afraid to develop that relationship.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and then we get Rose rather than having to be just a sounding board for Finn, can then be her own character, coming up with unique technical solutions. We still get the thing about her sister, maybe a direct bond with Leia. Maybe she's the person who helps pull Leia out. Like, I always imagine instead of like Leia being blasted into space, she uses the Force to hold atmosphere in, and maybe then Rose is the one who has to slice the door and pull her out, and she's trying to save everyone, and Rose is like, you can only save one person and yourself, and they pulls her through the airlock. You know, you could get scenes like that. We could get interactions
later on because, that's the lesson that Poe teaches Finn. We can't win this war if you sacrifice yourself.
Yeah, and then we would pass the Bechdel test. So
there we go.
Because we would have interactions between female characters that are not just about men. So
not even Dune 2 could pass that test.
There's like 6 characters in that whole movie.
But yeah, it's just a small change, but it's not even a change to be like, oh wow, look at how different the universe is. It's like, oh wow, this is kind of a great movie. But
yeah, how do we see this changing the rise of Skywalker?
None. We have just again a stronger bond between Poe and Finn. I don't know if that would prevent Finn from. I don't think it would prevent Finn from any of his development or lack thereof in the film. It would certainly give us a reason to care more about Poe, because
maybe they're like being adorable in the cockpit during that escape scene. So I think you have like a better dynamic between them, but I don't think it changes the film much because the emotional core of the movie remains with Rey and Kylo. I think. And then when they're being captured and we're learning about his past, and we read one of Poe's exes, and then add some additional actual layers of character development. It's like, man, how many exes or like pseudo romance interests did they introduce for Finn and Poe just to keep them from getting with each other?
I think we do have one moment in Rise of Skywalker where we see that maybe Poe has been struck by the Palpatine lightning storm and his X-Wing is plummeting. That could be the awakening moment for Finn in order to catch it out of the sky and save him, or just awaken his Force abilities so that he can succeed in the coup against the Sith troopers. Something. Give them something in this movie, please.
Yeah, so they're more directly involved as the two leaders of the B plot in The Rise of Skywalker. All right, so I think that takes us through The Last Jedi of our what-ifs. So turning on to then the last movie of the sequel trilogy, The Rise of Skywalker. Connor, I believe it is your turn to go first.
So this is a change where, again, it's one that it's small, but I think that it does have great ramifications. I'm just not sure what they are in The Rise of Skywalker. But it's really, what if J.J. Abrams didn't cut all of the ties to The Last Jedi? And in this specific case, what if Rey begins the new Jedi Order immediately using the ancient texts, her lessons from Luke, and becomes a teacher to the Canto-Bite children?
But even another Canto-Bite children, other Force-sensitive children that she discovers.
Yeah.
So we have maybe a slightly bigger time skip, but while piloting the Falcon and being a key member of the Resistance, she also has a few students hanging around that she's, along with Leia, instructing in the Force.
Does that affect the trajectory of the film whatsoever?
I mean, I don't think you're going to involve the children in the fighting. I don't think it changes how Rey needs to go find the dagger left by Ochi of Bestoon, or needs to go find, I think it might give her something else to fight for and some additional motivation, but I don't think it actually changes the film very much. It sort of just moves up, instead of us having to learn, now that they're going to make a movie about the new Jedi Order, new Jedi Order, Nuevo. Instead, it gives it to this in this film. Gives more of a sense of hope for the future. I can see maybe why they avoided it, because then it's like, oh, of course, the one female main character is surrounding herself with children.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to be doing that in a few years anyway, with whatever Episode 10 or just the new Jedi Order will be. But seeing it, her becoming a teacher, it could slow down her fight, her angst a little bit. But do the children become leverage that Kylo can use against her? Whether that be to snuff them out or to try to turn them to his dark side and become new Knights of Ren?
I think that's all possible. I mostly think it just changes some dialogue, it changes some motivation for Rey. I think maybe she recalls their voices when she's fighting against Palpatine. I think Palpatine threatens to make them his new Inquisitors or whatever when he's fighting them. So
this change is more, I think, personally just to add a little bit more color, just to add a little bit more development. It's like having Poe and Finn go together to Canto Bight. It's just taking these plot threads and instead of just swiping them away when a new director gets hold, just allowing that to naturally develop from film to film to make something that's a little bit more cohesive.
Yeah, so again, I like the change. I don't think it changes a ton as far as the actual plot goes, but has bigger implications for the world as a whole.
Right. So what's your final change for the Skywalker Saga?
So mine is bigger, and changes one of the last big scenes in the entire saga, is what if Ben Solo survived and Rey died after the fight with Palpatine? So the same dyad thing, the same thing happens, but then it's Rey giving her life to save Ben Solo instead of Ben Solo giving his life to save Rey.
Well, we certainly don't get a contrived ending where Rey chooses the last name Skywalker, and she becomes the last Skywalker, or the rise of the Skywalker, or whatever. I mean, it's unless they really make it that Skywalker is a surname for Jedi, I'm a little bit itchy at that decision. So having Ben Solo as the rise of the Skywalker, as the rise of the family lineage, is more fitting.
But I think there's only two people that would have accepted that Ben Solo was good now, which are Rey and Leia, and they're both dead.
Yeah.
So this is not exactly a happy ending for Ben Solo. His parents are dead.
He killed one of them.
Yeah, he killed one of his parents, and he indirectly led to the death of the other. His only friend and potential twisted love interest in Rey is now dead, who gave her life for him, which is going to mess him up for a long time. His mentor is dead. His mentor's puppeteer is dead. The First Order is gone. Finn and Poe will never forgive him for his actions leading him to have Rey be dead. So he has to flee the planet in secret on the light side now with his grandfather's lightsaber.
Living as a hermit, almost.
I think I see him becoming this wandering Ronin figure who refuses to fall to the dark side, but is constantly tormented by what he's done. I think that
he could be trying to redeem himself slowly, action by action, on a permanent or an everlasting crusade for redemption, because I don't know if there's ever a point where he can redeem himself, but I think that the perpetual action of trying to is the future that he has in store, where he's wandering around like this Ronin, but he's saving the villages, he's overthrowing the corrupt governments, and then moving on.
Well, and I think Finn blames him for Rey's death. And so I think you could have a movie of a cat and mouse. Finn, who has embraced his Force sensitivity, started a new Jedi Order in Rey's name, found the texts and all that. So we get angry Jedi Knight Finn pursuing the rumors of this mysterious stranger who he believes is Kylo Ren across the Outer Rim.
He may even have started the new Jedi Order, but has been unable to unlock his Force sensitivity because of that rage. He could be tempted to go to the dark side because of that anger. He's acting out of revenge. He's acting out of this search for vengeance. So that would very much fuel the dark side within Finn.
Yeah, and all Ben Solo wants is either acceptance somewhere or to be left alone, but he's constantly pursued by Finn. And I think having a more vengeful, angry Finn is an interesting character to see, because he's not angry or vengeful in the movie, but definitely Rey's death would have brought that out in him.
Yeah, Rey is his salvation. He's the first heart that Rey changes, and it's not just to turn away from the First Order, but it's to fight the First Order. So yeah, I think that this would be quite interesting and a very intriguing way to show the secular nature of the light and the dark side, because now we have Ben Solo, who is tormented, trying to do his best for good. We have Finn, who's tormented and trying to seek out vengeance. So, does his lightsaber bleed when he fights Kylo and turn red? So we have another clash on blue to red. It would be a great way just to...
Yeah, you have a confrontation Northman style on some kind of erupting volcano, or does he finally track him down to some moon, and they have a discussion and dramatic talk. Is there a duel? I don't think Ben would want to kill Finn. I think Finn would really want to kill Ben. I don't think Finn stands a chance in a lightsaber battle against Kylo in this way, unless it's been years. I mean, I just want to see a tormented Adam Driver baring his chest to Finn, saying, "Kill me now!" And Boyega just being tormented. He's like, "If that's what you are, walk my path." Some kind of thing. And then I don't know what decision you'd have the director make, but I want that scene.
It would be a great epilogue. George Lucas had initially supposedly written out a 12-movie narrative where it wasn't even set up in trilogies. We had a prologue film of the Dawn of the Jedi, and we had an epilogue film of just kind of the future of the Jedi, and everything in between was the Skywalker Saga. So what would it be like to have this epilogue film where the fate of the Force lies in this conflict? I'd like that. That's a modern Western that needs to be made to be like Logan, but with more science fiction.
Yeah, because then you that Ben Solo is morally in the right, but has done terrible things. So, and you love Finn, but he's doing the wrong thing. So I think that narrative tension is a great way to write a film. You have even Poe at this point, who doesn't like Kylo Ren, but he's gone. The First Order's dismantled. It's like, just let him go and wander off. He's not trying to gather the remnants to him. He is an old, defeated, broken man. Not even old, but like he's just a broken man. Poe's like, I don't... if he comes back, of course we have a price on his head, but let's focus on trying to stop the galaxy from falling to pieces now that after Hosnian Prime was destroyed and the First Order messed everything up. And then Finn is like, no, I must have my revenge.
That might even prevent the Jedi Order from starting at this point. Finn might be searching for the Jedi text just to train and hone himself to be a weapon capable of defeating Kylo.
Yeah, and Poe is like, we know Rey would have wanted you to like train these children or find Force-sensitive children. He's like, not until Kylo is dead. So,
yeah, I think that would make either say this decision were moved up so that Episode 9 had the pseudo climax in the middle, and we had this ending.
I still see it as another film, but yeah.
Sure. Either way, I think that it would be an entertaining continuation, a natural continuation. I hate to keep poo-pooing on the sequel trilogy, but just allowing the narrative choices to unfurl naturally, not in an audience pandering way, but in a creative way in order to actually make progressive stories would be great. And I think that's kind of what each of our ideas is geared towards.
Well, those are our what-if ideas for the sequel trilogy. What changes we would make, picking a single incident each from The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker, and talking what the implications might be. I think there's less future for us to sort of speculate on how that would change. For those who listen to our prequel episode, you know that we had to discuss how that would ripple out through sometimes 8 future movies and additional items. Less of that to do here because we just don't know. But I still think interesting to think about. And I still think it shows that our core 3 characters are still very interesting in the sequel trilogy and have a lot of potential because they still remain the core of a lot of our theories going forward.
Yeah, and still have potential and allowing for an interesting future to arise. But we'll see if Disney's listening and if they make the What If series and if our thoughts align with theirs. But at some point in the future, I think we'll dip into the Disney Plus television streaming shows and some of the ancillary films just to say, hey, what would happen with some changes here? But we'll take take a little break from the world of What If and get back more into our more, I would say, our less
Hypothetical?
episode series.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening, and join us next week for more Talking Star Wars.
We'll see you sometime soon in a galaxy right here.